are, and thank you for that raid. So this is the fourth. We've had an exciting stream already because we've had Little Herdes who went ahead and subscribed again. We got a raid from Miklos. A follow
there's been a follow. Hashtag follow.
And Brocky Brock continued a gift sub. So that's another subscription.
Mm-hmm.
I know. It's not even, and it's not OmniPixel's stream until Tree Frog doesn't unmute herself too. I should start, you know how they have those predictions you can make now on stream? I should start having the little prediction, like, how long will it take Tree Frog to notice she's muted?
I didn't know that there were predictions on stream, so mine would probably be, how long is it going to take Emmeline to notice that there are predictions?
Yes, that is a thing.
A long time.
And so I met Emmeline, and we're really excited to have her, but I met Emmeline through Miklos. And how that happened is that Miklos, before DMCA was a concern, was very, very diligent about only using music that was allowed on stream. So he ran into Emmeline's music somewhere and had purchased it and contacted her to see if, hey, maybe she would let him use it on stream. And she said yes. So that was easily 2.5, maybe even 3 years ago now.
It was, I think, 3 years ago.
It was 3 years ago now. So he's been using some of her amazing original music for like his intro, for sometimes his extra, all those kind of things. She even appeared on a stream a couple times, got him singing a little bit, which was fantastic because he always wanted to sing. He just didn't want to, you know. And then with the pandemic, Emmeline has started streaming as well. Is that fair?
Yeah, it started. Yeah, Miklos and I actually met at well, we didn't meet. He came and he saw a show, and then he reached out to me via Facebook and said, hey, I stream games. Would you be interested in letting me use your music? And I was like, of course, please. I have this like internal rule, which is that if somebody comes up to me and says something nice about my music, we're instantly friends. Like immediately. We bonded in that moment. And I'm just grateful forever. So I was really excited that he was even able to use it. And he was like, I'll promote you. And I was like, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you liked it enough to use it. And yeah, and what's been cool is Miklos's fam has become part of my fam, and we've been able to share family members, which is how I know you.
And I think that's a lot of us how we see a platform like Twitch, but I think it's also a little bit about how you view music as well. Is that fair?
Yeah, music for me is all about the connection. Yeah. And that was why I started up in Twitch, is because, man, I missed playing live for people. Because I play live in my living room like every day. The dog is tired of hearing everything that I play. She's like, maybe learn some new things or get better at the things that you know. But yeah, for me, it's all about the connection. It's about that moment when you share something emotional, something meaningful with somebody else. And in that moment, you all are feeling the same thing at the same time. And you're giving each other permission to feel things in a big, open, exciting way. And I miss live music so much. I can't wait for it to come back. But until it does, this has been a really nice way to connect with people in a similar way. To, build a community we talked about, because that's something that's really important to you too when you stream.
Absolutely. For those who know me, know that learning to stream this way and be a little more focused on one person instead of like focused on chat is a new thing for me. And it's partially because I feel like every single person who's coming to see us is very important. But also, I also have to keep in mind that I'm now connecting with you, and other people can join us and we can connect with them. But it is a very important part of OmniPixel gaming. As well as just building a community of people who like to hang out together and do things together. And a safe place.
I love that. And please, folks in chat, please throw things up, say hi, because I think Tree Frog and I are similar in that we're both like, all the people, come in. We will be friends.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So what attracted you to music in the first place? Like, how'd you get started?
I honestly don't remember a time when I wasn't making music. I gave a presentation in Washington earlier this year, pre-2020. I gave a presentation in Washington about the transformative power of music. And I jokingly tell the story that I was 2 when I discovered it, because there was this magical black box in my living room, and my parents would go over to the black box and they would touch it and music would come out. And I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. And so they would find me like wandering around the living room after they'd done this, like doing my little baby dance moves,
right?
Which I would like to say have gotten better over time, haven't gotten better. About the same now as they were then. But I loved it. And so one day I went over and I was given very specific instructions as a 2-year-old, which was do not touch this. This is very expensive. Do not touch. But it was a magical black box and it made music happen. So I went over and I touched and I made music happen, but I wanted it to be louder. So I turned the little knob and it got louder and louder and louder. And my parents found me sobbing hysterically on the floor because it was too loud, but I wanted the music. So I wouldn't let them remove me. But I also, I had my hands over my ears and I was crying. And I mean, from that age, like I was a weird 4-year-old. I asked for a folding chair for Christmas because Whitney Houston in the I Will Always Love You video has a folding chair.
Right.
And I didn't think that I could recreate the video until I had the folding chair. So every other kid was like, I want a Barbie, I want a dream house. And I was like, I want a folding chair. So and they got me the folding chair and I took it out from under the tree and I set it up in the living room and I turned on the Whitney Houston video and I like crossed my arms over backside, same way that she did. And I was just, that was good. That was my Christmas. So yeah, I don't remember a time when music hasn't meant a lot to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And since then, like you've gotten a lot of education. You've kind of really focused on it in a lot of different ways, right? Like it's a lot of it's a lot of paths that you've been taking, I think, in regards to music. Yeah. The Schwa OPG says games and music are connected, and it's so true. I think, but I mean that's part of the gaming experience, right? Is music. And I think for me, you know, what you just said, Miklos was a great example of how music connects us all in different ways. And because I have that great passion for it, I've looked for all these different ways to connect to it. I was classically trained. I have a music degree, which basically means that I know way more about theory than anybody actually needs to. Mm-hmm. I know enough to get myself into trouble and arguably to like noodle my way out of it. But what it always comes back to for me is those moments in performance where I started writing songs when I was 11, which is relatively young. And I wrote them because there were these feelings inside of me that I felt needed to go somewhere. And the artists that were really big at the time were writing really deep and meaningful songs that said how I felt better than I could and gave me permission to sort of say how I felt in that way. And for me, the most meaningful moments were moments where, you know, I was playing a piano recital and I looked out and I could see everybody like staring, just having a moment. The air changes when there's live music. Yes. There's an energy, just a collective energy, and everybody is a part of it. And it doesn't matter who you were when you walked in the door or where you're going when you leave. For that moment, you're all connected. And that kind of magic is something that never gets old to me. That's something I always want to be a part of. And so everything that I do for me comes back to that. Comes back to creating that moment where everybody's feeling the same thing in the same moment. And for that time, they're not lonely because they're all connected through this beautiful musical experience. I miss live shows too. Preach. And I mean, that's a really important aspect of it, is that we can be sharing an experience together. You're writing music that expresses how you feel, and we find meaning in it for ourselves as well. And it's just as meaningful. Like it's putting words to your experience that give us also a way to express our experience, which is such an interesting thing about music, is we hear what we need to hear. Yes. There's a really famous theologian named Robert N. Bella who says that music is unique in that it participates in that which it represents. Yeah. That is unique. So it becomes part of you experiencing it. And it grows with you, right? Like you go back and listen to your favorite songs and it takes you back to the moment when you first heard it. But you also hear it as the person you are now. Yes.
And it says something different to you every time. And that conversation, to be a part of it is really cool. I miss those moments in live shows after I played when people would come up to me and be like, oh man, that song reminded me of this relationship. And then I would hear their story that they had somehow heard in my song, which is just such an amazing gift to be able to connect with somebody on that level and to have that connection with them automatically just by playing.
Well, just by playing and I mean, really honing your art. I would say that, I mean, we're going to get to hear you guys, just so you know that we're going to get to hear Emmeline play some music. We're not just going to make her talk the whole time.
And I'm not just going to stroke the piano awkwardly. Like I'll actually play.
We'll actually get there. But I mean, I think that all art should be expressed, but there is something about amazing art that speaks to us as human beings on a different level than the act of creation just itself. So when people like yourself spend the time to really hone their craft, and we always talk about talent, but one of the things I learned fairly recently in my life is that when we praise people for their talent, sometimes it almost sounds like we're dismissing the amount of time it takes to hone that talent. So it's a combination of talent and time and dedication and drive that makes for really amazing art, almost always.
Yeah. I love that you say that. I think that's such an important realization, but especially for people who might be out there who are gamers, but also musicians. Also, Dasher, I would love to score an interactive video game. That would be amazing. That would be so cool. Yeah, I think that there's this misconception sometimes that you're born a musician or you're not,
mm-hmm.
and that you're born talented or you're not. But one of my favorite stories to tell is I teach music when I'm not playing music. So that's one of the ways in which I've like managed to make music a part of this area of my life. And I had a student who wasn't the best at matching pitch, but really loved to sing. And her mom was like, she really loves this. We're going to give her a couple of voice lessons, but you have to tell me if you don't think she's any good. And I was like, she's passionate and she's hardworking. Mm-hmm. So let's see what happens. And after her first lesson, her mom came up to me and was like, I don't know how this is going to go. And I was like, just give me some time and give her some time. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, she was recently in I say recently, pre-COVID, she was in a show where she was cast as one of the main characters without ever having been part of that studio before. And she loves to sing. And she's really good at it because she worked hard at it and she loved it. And I think that that's a good message no matter what you do, mm-hmm. is that if you love something and you're willing to work at it, do it. Because, time is going to pass anyway. Exactly. You might as well spend it doing something you love.
Absolutely. And in your case, touching other people as well. It's like a whole round thing. Other than your original stuff, what do you enjoy like listening to and playing? Like what are some of your
everything? I like it all. Yeah, I really do. It'd probably be easier for me to tell you what I don't like. Mm-hmm. But I can find something redeeming in most things, right? I'm not a huge twangy country fan, right? Which is odd because I grew up in Texas, so I should be a twangy country fan. But I think it's because I grew up around all of it that I'm a little bit like, oh, this again. But there's this really beautiful song by a group called Sugarland called "Stay." Have you heard this song?
Yes. And
there's the twang, right? Mm-hmm. She starts with "Hop." Oh, I've been sitting here staring at the clock on the wall, and I've been laying here praying she won't call. Like it's all very twangy, but it's such a beautiful story. And so for me, there's always something I can find in a song to connect to. So I'll play it all. I love it all. Yes. ZYVX Gaming says, I'm from Austin and despise country. I don't know what it is. And it's not that I despise it. I don't hate it. And I can throw on the twang if I need to. Like I've done country songs before. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a piano bar and somebody's like, you blame me. I got friends in low places. And I'm a little bit like, sure. I got friends, places, right? Like we'll throw it out. But but I think there's always something in the song that I can connect to, whether it's the story, whether it's the chord, whether it's that one moment at the end. Fly Me to the Moon ends in a 9 chord, which is this. And I played it for my student the other day, and this is a student who hates to practice piano. She was like, that chord is beautiful, play it again. It's like, she was like, I have to know how to make that happen. And her mom sent me a text later where she was like, all she has done all night is play the same chord. Like, excellent.
I mean, if you learn the harder stuff, it's easier to go backwards, right?
I guess.
I mean, hopefully, anyway. I grew up in a period of time, and I'm a prairie girl. I'm Canadian, but the prairies, you're kind of either a country person or not. It was kind of like almost a rule. So I went for the rock way, not the country way. But so it's always kind of an interesting, but storytelling, like a lot of the songs that we would still listen to, Reba McEntire, who was a storyteller, super country, but very much a storyteller.
From You is such a great jam.
Yeah.
Do you know that song?
No.
Back in 1876, and a boring bell invented a contraption that went oh so well. By the 19th century, they're in everybody's home. It's a crazy little thing they call the telephone. You can carry one in your briefcase, on a plane, or in your car. You can something. I don't remember the rest of it. And she's like, so tell me why haven't I heard from you? And you're like, oh, yes. Oh, what a burn. It's a burn that builds up over the whole verse, right? She's like, let's do it. Let's get into this. I'm going to give you the whole history of the phone. No, why haven't you called me?
Yeah.
I was like, this is brilliant.
A little bit of sass happening.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So good.
And I always, I think sometimes we're a bit of a product of when we grew up for our music. Like some of us kind of, like you said, it brings us back. And I think I was telling you about, you put on some hair metal, suddenly I can take on the world. I'm like, don't mess with me because I'm suddenly 14 again. So
I love that.
It is. It's like suddenly I'm like, that's how kind of it works.
I got it.
So kind of pre-pandemic, you used to play a lot of in-person stuff, right?
I did.
Yes.
Yes.
What were some of your favorites?
I still try to safely.
You still try to. Let's hear about this.
I've played some outdoor gigs.
Right. See, y'all are in Texas.
Really cool.
You didn't have snow until 10 minutes ago.
And wow, did we get all the snow. We made up for it. All of us were like, we never get snow in Texas. And then all of a sudden the universe was like, oh, would you like some? Here it is. Yes. And of course, everybody was so confused. It was like, and Tree Frog laughed at me because I was like, it's going to be cold. She was like, it's going to be like actually cold as opposed to like Texas cold. Because usually if it's 40, we're all like, nope, can't go outside.
I know. And I'm Canadian, so people think that our national pastime is hockey, but actually it's scaring foreigners with our weather. So I'm like, 40, I'll see your 40 and I'll raise you minus 40, which is what it was about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, we were not prepared for that. Like it hit negative temperatures in Texas and yeah. But the good news is we're out of that now because Texas weather is about as bipolar as a really good pop song. I got my kind of cold. We did get your kind of cold. We got hardcore cold for a while. But yeah, I played a lot of live gigs. And the thing that I like about live, right, is it's interactive, which is the same thing that I like about Twitch. Because, we have those streamer song lists, right? So people can make requests. Yep. But I'm the kind of person who, if they throw in a chat request, if I kind of know it, I'll try and figure it out. Yes. Ostensibly, that's the only thing my degree is good for now.
So I can tell you, I did this to her one day. she's like, what do you want to play? And I was like, hey, do you know Four Non Blondes? And she's like, what's up? And I'm like, yes. And she's like, well, wait a minute. And she's kind of going away on her, and she's kind of singing a little. You can hear her a little bit. And then all of a sudden, bam, and she just dives into it, and it's right. Like, I'm like, how does that just happen in like 89 seconds? I swear. She was just like fooling around for a minute, and then bam, that was live on stream.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do, ideally. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. I had somebody request Part of Your World the other night and hadn't done it in a really long time, but I worked for Disney. So I was like, I can figure this out. And sure enough, later we had like a whole, but some of those songs are iconic. And so when I think about things like What's Up by Four Non Blondes, right? I've heard that enough times in my life that I can sort of figure it out. And I've had enough training that it's not the end of the world. If I get like chords that are half right, I can kind of play around with it. And what I like about Stream is people are patient, right? So if I'm sitting there and I'm like, 25 years of my life is still trying to get up that great big hill of hope. Well, that sounds right. For a destination. Realized quickly when I knew I should, the world was made of this brotherhood of man. Oh, whatever that means. And by then, like, by the time we've hit the first verse, I can kind of, I'm like, oh, okay, so half of this is right. I can figure out the rest of it. And then you're in it because you've made it to the chorus, which is the part that everybody knows. And what I miss about live shows is that's the moment when everybody sings along. What I love about Twitch is people will sing along on chat.
Yes.
Like, nothing makes me happier than seeing people like type lyrics or being like, whoa, or when they throw all the little emotes. That's what they're called, right?
Yes. Can we get some hype and chat from Emmeline?
Even when I almost called them emojis because I'm learning, guys. I'm learning.
That is okay. I like to tell you, I like to do the whole like, I got my lighter. I'm doing the thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because by the time it gets big, right? I used to cover Call Me Maybe, and I still do. And I do a cover medley, right? And I throw in all kinds of stuff. And I would ask the audience, I'd tell them at the beginning, like, you're going to lose your street cred over the course of however many minutes we spend doing this. And that's okay. You can just set it in the center of the table. Nobody's going to judge you. But if you know the song, you better sing along. And when we get to Call Me Maybe, like, nobody knows the first verse of that song. Which is, can we be real? Most songs, nobody knows the verse. And you definitely don't know the second verse. But you know the, like, when I get to the point where I go, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? Right? Like, see, they're all going up in chat. Yes, you know that part.
Yes.
Like, that's the part everybody knows. So I get jazzed for the choruses. And the big joke was that most songs are 4 chords. So when I'm teaching my students why theory is important, they're like, why am I going to need to know this? I'm like, well, if you know those 4 chords, you can usually get to, who else would this be? What's a song by Lady Gaga start where she's like, you and I, oh, you and I, yeah, you are, just you and I. Something about back heels, where she's like in the corner of my bar with your high heels on. It sounds so much like the Four Non Blondes song. But yeah, they all bleed into each other.
Absolutely. Are you willing to play us a bit of a medley?
I would love to play you a bit of a medley.
I'm going to be quiet
are we
now.
Start with what?
I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to let you play for a minute.
You better sing along if you know it.
Oh, we don't want that.
The delay is if I could take one thing away from the live streaming experience, it would be the delay, because nothing would make me happier than to pull us all into a chat room and just like have a giant sing along. And that's the best part of a live show, right? So I have a song called 100 Years, and in the middle of it, because it's mostly, I had a theory teacher, and this is me being 14, who said, all pop songs are only 4 chords. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna prove you wrong. So I have to throw in something that's not just the 4 chords, just so that I prove her wrong. Oh, yay! See, we got some people who are gonna sing along. Excellent. I love it. If you guys want to throw in some requests to chat, please. And if I know it, I'll throw it in here. And if I don't, I'll just make it up. Actually, funny story about that. I make this claim every time I play a live show. And somebody brought up Hotline Bling before Hotline Bling was like a thing. They were like, "Do you know Hotline Bling?" And I was like, but I had told them I would make it up. She was like, "So are you going to make it up?" And I was like, "Yes." And I had like some whole song about a jewelry heist. Just totally not what Hotline Bling was about. But I don't know. I couldn't recreate it if you put a gun to my head. Anyway, here we go. We were talking 90s, so you want to start with some 90s?
Sure.
Well, I don't want to wait for our love to be over. To know right now, will it be? I don't want to wait for our love to be over. Will it be? So will it be? Sorry. Do, 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 I'm packed and pumped and she's smiling, she's living, she's golden, she lives in me. Says she lives relation, oh motivation. She comes by and she goes down to me. Let me give a smile, look what's up for you. Do I know what you want to do? Coming over you. Keep on smiling what we go through. Can't stop to the rhythm divide you. Can I speak to you like the course? Coming up a line like we come to the curse. Making like a freak show takes the stage. She's winning the game she plays. She said, I want something else to get me through this. Everybody, sing me try kind of life. Baby, baby, I want something else. I'm not listening when you say goodbye. You took your coat off and stood in the rain. You're always crazy like that. And I watched from my window. Always felt I was outside, looking in on you. You're always the mysterious one with dark eyes and careless hair. You were fashionably sensitive, but too cool to care. And these foolish games are tearing me apart. Oh, you thoughtless words are breaking my heart. You're breaking my heart. And we can just switch decades.
Let's do it.
Right from the start, you were a thief, you stole my heart. And I will be victim. I let you see the parts of me that were all that pretty. With every touch, you fix them. Now you've been talking in your sleep. Oh, things you say to me. Oh, tell me that I enough of our love. Just give me a reason, just a little bit's enough. Just a second, we're not broken, just bend down. We can learn to love again. It's in the stars, it's been written in the scars on our hearts. No, we're not broken, just bend down. We can learn to love again. I came in like a wrecking ball. I never hit so hard in love. All I wanted was to break your walls. All you ever did was you wreck me. Yeah, you wreck me. Oh, I see Lost Boy. Oh, hold on. I'm a lost boy from Neverland, usually hanging out with Peter Pan. And when we're bored, we play in the woods, always on the run from Captain Hook. Run, boy, they say to me, away from all of reality. Neverland is home to lost boys like me, and lost boys like me are free. Neverland is home to lost boys like me, lost boys like me are free. You can even go R&B.
Let's do it.
Your eyes make the stars look like they're not shining. Your hair falls perfectly without you trying. You're so beautiful when I tell you every day. No, I know, when I compliment you, you won't believe me. It's so sad to think that you don't see what I see. And every time you ask me, do I look okay? And I'll say, yeah, I'll say. And that's the kind of thing live that people are like, wait, what just happened? We'll go super old school. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light you see. Oh, I won't be afraid, no, I won't shed a tear just as long as you stand with me. Everybody, darling, darling, stand by me. Whoa, stand by me. Won't you stand by me, stand by me. Well, hey, where did we go? Days when the rain came down in the hollow, playing a new game, skipping and running, hey, hey, laughing and jumping in the misty morning fog. Well, oh, our hearts were thumping, and you, a brown-eyed girl. You, my brown-eyed girl. Do you remember when we used to sing sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la? There we go. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Brown-eyed girl. You, my brown-eyed girl. You can even throw in some rap.
You gonna give it a go?
I mean, should we? Or do we need to cut off the medley? Do we need to go rap?
We should give it at least one more.
Love Song by Sara Bareilles. I will throw that in for you. Absolutely. After we rap a little bit. Actually, you can be amazing. You can turn a phrase into a weapon or a drug. You can be the outcast and be the backlash of somebody's lack of love. Or you can start speaking up. No one's gonna hurt you the way the words do when they set on knees. You should stuck to the inside, no sunlight, sometimes the shadow wins. But I wonder what would happen if you say what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave. What you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I'm not gonna write you a love song, cause you dance for it, cause you need one. You see, I'm not gonna write you a love song, cause you tell me it's make or break, and all your way, I'm not gonna write you to stay. If all you have is leaving, I'm gonna need a better reason to write you a love song today. Right? Something like that.
fantastic.
Honestly, you leave the light on to help me see what daylight's my eyes on. 'Cause I believe there's a way you can love me because I say, boy, you got my heartbeat floating away, making like a drum when it's coming your way. Can't you feel that boom, 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 boom bass? Can't you feel that boom, 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 boom bass? So Nicki Minaj and I are like the same height. So that's like my goal in life, is to be Nicki Minaj. So this is my best go. Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
This one is for the boys with the boomers system, top down AC with the coolest system. When he come in the club, he be blazing up. He got stacks in his packs like he's saving up. And he ill, he real, he might got a deal. He pop bottles and he got the right kind of deal. Said he wrote, he don't, he might sell come. He always in the air, but he never fly. He's a trip, sailor the ship. When I get a drip, kiss him on the lips. And that's the kind of dude I was looking for. And yes, she gets slapped if you're looking. I said, excuse me, you're a hell of a guy. I mean, my, like Pelican Fly. I mean, you're so shy and I'm loving you tight. You're like second belly guy with the thing in his eye. Oh, yes I did. Somebody please tell me who the I is. I am Nicki Minaj. And back to back flips up. Well, you got my heartbeat floating away, making like a drum when it's coming your way. Can't you feel that boom, 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 bass? Can't you feel that boom, 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 bass? I had no idea how many bad words were in that song. And I was like, oh no, we've got to read them all.
We're fine. We're fine. There's no hate in there. We're good.
I knew all like the words to the Eminem songs in the 90s.
Those you gotta be a little more careful about.
Or like Ludacris. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I won't throw that in here though.
That requires so much editing.
What? I know, right? I'll spare you that. Is there any? I think I got all the ones in chat. Did anybody throw anything that I missed? Would you like me to throw anything in here?
I think that was amazing. So I think we should put our socials now.
What?
I'm just talking to my mods.
I see people singing along, which is exciting. And then, we were talking about this one earlier. I threw a wish in a well. Don't ask me, I'll never tell. I looked at you as it fell, and now you're in my way. Tree Frog, she's Canadian.
I know.
I trade my soul for a wish, pennies and dimes for a kiss. I wasn't looking for this, but now you're in my way. Your stare was holding ripped jeans, skin was showing. Hot nights, wind was blowing. Where you think you're going, baby? Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so
call me maybe.
Yes!
I can't do it.
Hard to look right at you, baby, but here's my number. Your turn.
No, you gotta sing it so they can hear it done well.
Call me maybe. Yeah. And we just, like, for eons, I can just throw those in there.
Yes.
And that's, so, and then I would get through, 20 or something covers. And then the crowd would start throwing things at me. They'd be like, do you know this one? Do you know this one? And that's the best part, because then it becomes interactive.
Yeah.
And even if I don't know it,
Well, and that's what your stream is like, right? It's very
chaotic and crazy.
And very music focused. Like, if you guys are loving this, you have to go follow her, because this is what stream really does look like with Emmeline.
Yeah, but it's all about the connection for me, and it's about the community. And I want, I know it's not a live show, but I miss live shows. And I want everybody who comes into stream, everyone who comes into chat, and you do the same thing. Like, you acknowledge everybody who shows up in your stream. I think that's such an important thing. I make up little follow songs for people and little sub songs when they come in and they say hi for the first time, just because it's a community and I miss that feeling, and I want them to feel like it's their show. Because I'd be playing in my living room no matter what. But when I hop on, guys, I figured out a lot of technological stuff for you.
Yeah.
I don't know how to run any of this, but I figured it out because I care so much about you and how we can have a show together and we can have fun together. Until we can all be back in the same room. It's a way for us to connect in that.
Well, and in some ways.
That's so nice of you to say. Just come in. Just come hang out. Be part of the fam, Dasher. Just come in and
go follow.
Throw some requests out there. Hang out. That's what it's all about. It's about building a family around music.
And one thing I can say, Emmeline, is that even though it's not a live show, I would have never probably run into you. I haven't been in Texas ever. I'm not likely to be. Miklos's channel did let me experience music, but beyond that, like, you can experience music from all over, and people can come who would never maybe make it to a live show.
That's what's so great, is we've been able to build that kind of a community. And we used to do this thing after a gig where I would hang out in the parking lot with everybody who'd come. And sometimes I'd pull out a guitar and we just hang out and sing together, and they'd throw requests in, or we just have a chat about some songs that they liked. And what I like that Twitch feels similarly. I know sometimes that creates kind of a chaotic feeling. And there are moments where I'm like, oh God, chat is going so fast. I can't keep up with the requests. What am I doing? So if I miss yours, I'm sorry. Throw it back out there and I will get to it. But it's the community, because we've had people check in from Argentina. We've had people check in from Brazil, from the UK, from the Philippines. And that's so freaking cool.
Yeah. It changes our reach.
From Alberta. We had people check in from Alberta.
Well, and what's funny is the Lost Boys song was written by an Alberta musician. And I actually saw her speak about it.
No way.
It was originally written as part of a Vine, actually. And it was literally just like a little bloop, bloop, bloop. And then the Vine blew up. And so she wrote a whole song.
That is so cool. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah. So, see? I mean, that's like an hour and a half from here.
That's so cool. Thank you. I'm so glad. Thanks for having me on. Yeah. And thanks for educating me in the ways of Canadian music. We discovered a mutual love for Our Lady Peace.
Yes.
And I'm grateful for that.
If you don't know who Our Lady Peace is, you should.
Guys, you gotta check out Our Lady.
Genius.
Your life has been so hard. Dried up angel, can't keep guard. Yeah, I think that's what I like about stream, is my brain is like a jukebox on crack always. Like, all the time.
I just can't even argue with that.
So stream is like a really great place to let that out, because people are like, oh, have you heard of this song? And I'm like, no, let's figure it out. Let's pull it up. Let's see what happens. And then people request stuff that they know, and then, you can get into it. We had a good Disney sing-along the other night in stream.
That is fantastic.
You've
done a lot of in-person gigs. Any more memorable or unusual ones?
Oh, man, I could tell you so many stories.
Tell us a couple.
So I sort of make it a point. This is a PG-13 story. I'm just going to start with that.
We're good.
It didn't need to be a PG-13 story. I had a rule, though. When I first started playing, I played a show at a bar called Lakewood Bar and Grill, which is a tiny dive bar in Dallas. It was like exactly what you picture in a movie when people are like, yeah, let's go to the dive bar. It was this like seedy, hole in the wall, dark, dirty bar that only served burgers and nachos and cheese sticks and beer. And I got a gig there, and I was like, I am super straight-laced as an individual. Like, I don't drink. And I'm allergic to milk, so you're not going to catch me eating cheese sticks. You will catch me oogling your cheese sticks and being like, maybe someday I'll get to have those. But I got a gig there, and they were like, we have an opening every Wednesday night. And they didn't program shows, so they didn't put like-minded artists together.
Oh.
But I opened every Wednesday night, and I opened for like a band that, I kid you not, played an amplified washboard. So these guys all showed up shirtless, and they had handlebar mustaches and dreadlocks, and they wore Hawaiian shorts, and they like threw on these metal washboards, and they played spoons against them, and they were amplified. And then they had a drummer, and they sang. They were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And their fans were super into it. But I was watching their sound check, and I was like, people are going to leave during my set. They're going to be like, what is this cutesy little curly haired brunette chick doing on my stage with my band, The Gallows. And the guy who ran the bar said, I have one deal with you. You can open as long as, he's like, the gig is yours for as long as you want it. Ad infinitum, you can open on Wednesday nights, but nobody can leave during your set. He was like, the second they leave during your set, we're going to give the gig to someone else. And I was like, and initially, you know, whatever, I was like 20. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Sure, whatever. I can keep people in their seats. And then I started to see who walked into the bar and who I was opening for on any given night. Like it was a rockabilly band, or it was a metal band, or you and I talked about a cover band that I opened for who sang a Dorito in place of My Libido in their Nirvana cover. They also did like a 13-minute cover of Bittersweet Symphony. And I was like, people are leaving now. this song is way too long. But it was hard, and it was wonderful because I felt this insane pressure and excitement every time I got up on stage, because I was like, I have to entertain these people. No matter who they are, no matter what kind of music they usually like, I have to make sure they're entertained. And so that was what I did. And I kept the gig for 2 years before the bar closed. And it was amazing. I opened for all kinds of crazy bands, but I made that pact with myself. After that, I was like, I'm never going to turn down a gig if I can play it. Even if I'm not programmed well, even if I'm like the only pop artist or the only jazz acoustic artist on the bill, I'm going to show up, because you never know where you can find fans or like-minded people or friends who are going to think, wow, that music really hits home for me. So I was like, I'm not going to discriminate. I'm going to show up and I'm going to play for whoever wants to hear my music. And I played in a storage unit in Fort Worth, which is a city about 45 minutes from me. I took a gig, and it was supposed to be a bunch of keyboard players. And the guy before me was a goth electronica artist. So he had like this crazy delay, and he would like hit a key and it would like echo for a really long time. He'd be like, bum, and everybody was like, yeah. And I walked in during his set, and everybody's like clad in leather, and they have the like dim colored lights. I was like, this is not going to go well. I'm going to get up there and they're going to be like, what is happening? What is this? And he got done with, he didn't look at the audience the entire time he was playing. He had his head bent over, and he had like a leather jacket on. He was like, and he was like, my heart. People were like, this is so sick. This is so good. And I was like, they're going to leave. Like, they're all going to walk out when I start playing. So I went up and I did my set, and they were great. It was one of the best audiences for whom I ever played. And I got off the stage, and this large human clad in leather, heavily pierced and tattooed, walked up to me and goes, I don't usually like what you do, but I really dug your set. You're not my kind of music, but I liked it. And I was like, I have made it in the world. Like, this is the best moment. And the band that played right after them, had these giant movie screens up on every wall, and they played a video before they started their set, and they'd never played before, but they were supposed to be a keyboard-based band. And so my roommate and I were sitting there. We were both in grad school at the time, so we were like, we got to go home and do homework, but I really, it's rude to leave. Got to watch this band. And behind her on the wall, there was this woman who was like slowly but surely pulling her shirt open. And I was like, what is happening right now? That is a very large woman, and she does not look like she's going to put that shirt back on. And sure enough, she did not. And then she started to take other avenues of clothing off, and they panned away, and there was another woman, and they started making out and stripping themselves. And I was like, this is porn. Like, this is porn. Oh my God, they're playing porn on 3 screens. And I looked at my roommate, and I could see it reflected in her eyes. And I was like, I don't know if I can stay for this. So sometimes not checking to make sure that I'm programmed well gets me into trouble.
Well, but, I mean, porn at a storage unit in Fort Worth. I mean, you can't pay for that kind of story.
You really couldn't pay for that kind of story. I don't think they were taking cover. That is the only time I have walked out of a gig early, because I was like, I can't unsee this. And to this, like, I sat through probably 25 minutes of their set, and if you put a gun to my head, I could not tell you what kind of music they played. Like, I have no idea what it was. And I went to the guy who booked it, and I was like, I'm so sorry, we have to go. Like, we live an hour away. I have a paper due tomorrow. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. And he goes, oh no, it's probably good. Somebody just called the cops. I found out we have an 8-year-old in the audience. And I was like, peace out. I'll see you later. Yeah. So that's probably the weirdest show I've ever played.
That's that. I mean, we all gotta have those, right?
It's like true confessions, right?
Yeah.
I'm watching all the comments in chat. Guys, it was legit weird. See, these are the kinds of stories you have to look forward to if you join our Twitch family. That's awesome. So I'm sorry, that's probably not what you expected to hear.
I love it. No, I mean, we went to Seattle just before the pandemic and went to some local music venues and have some stories. It's an interesting place to watch music too. So I'm glad you have a story like that, because I was like, well, yeah, I love these weird stories. If it's okay with you, Emmeline, we'll take a quick break here.
Yeah, totally.
And we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about like music writing. We'll hear some of her original stuff, you guys. Which, I mean, she's an amazing musician, but imagine what she writes. Like, imagine. And maybe a new one. She said she might play us a new one that she's working on. So we'll be back in like 5 minutes. We'll see you all then. There we go. That is a great way to say it. And we just finished hearing about a gig in a Texas storage unit that might have gone bad. Not really bad, but could have gone bad. It was interesting.
Could have been very bad.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. And I agree. This is, I mean, having people with talent and stuff come talk to me has just been a really amazing thing for me to have this awesome experience. I do know, though, that you're a songwriter.
Yes.
So how does it happen? What tends to come first? How does songwriting work for you?
For me, it often starts with a line. Sometimes a song comes fully formed, right? Like, there's a song I wrote recently called Corkscrew, and I feel like I sat down and I started writing it. And 10 minutes later, I stood up and I was like, oh, it's finished. And then 100 Years, which is a song into which I usually throw all the medleys. I had the first verse for 8 years before I wrote the rest of the song.
Wow.
Just sitting in this notebook of ideas. When I do songwriting sessions with other songwriters, I try to come prepared. So I'll have like a title or an idea that I'm working on. And I think the beauty of songwriting for me is that it's different every time. But what it always starts with is an emotion. There's always something there. And I'm glad you like my top. Plaid all the way.
But the 90s thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm ready to step into my own Nirvana video. Yeah. And I have the hair for the Metallica, so I'll just like back up a little and like, swash it around.
I got it right now too. Look at all that.
Can we do like a Metallica hair twirl at some point?
We'll just like
we're just gonna have to like. So yeah, we got a headbang. We have to
That's how I got like whiplash.
Oh no! Oh no!
The 90s was fun.
The 90s was the time. It was the time for sure. But no, I think I feel like my job as a songwriter is to take something that doesn't have words and to paint a picture of it with words. And above all, to say something true. And sometimes that happens really quickly. And sometimes it's like chipping away at it over and over and over and finding a better line and a better line and a better line. And sometimes the song wakes me up in the middle of the night. I get song ideas in the shower sometimes. Empire, which is a song that Miklos is kind enough to feature on his stream sometimes, was a song that came to me while I was driving to work one morning. So I was like on the highway in Texas, scrambling like sideways to scribble onto this envelope while I was also trying not to drive off the road.
So we're not going to condone illegal activity.
I didn't take my hand off the wheel. Distracted driving. I mean, as Texas drivers, we got a reputation. What can I say? But no, I think that it always starts with an emotion. Mm-hmm. And I think all I ever want as a songwriter is to articulate a feeling so that when somebody hears it, they can say to themselves, oh, I've been there, or oh, I'm not alone, or I feel understood. Because that was what drew me to music. Like, I was definitely that kid who put on records and felt like I had a best friend. I was like, oh, I've been there. I get this. This person has been where I've been. I'm not alone. And I always hope that that's a feeling that I can give to someone else.
And I think that that's, when you put the music out there into the world and someone will feel something from it, even if it's not quite what you were feeling when you put it out there. I mean, yeah. I've met musicians who don't care for that, who are like, but most of them are really, really like that means something to them. So normally for you, it starts with the lyrics rather than the music. Sometimes, yeah. Or it starts with a story. Right. Or an intense feeling that I want to put into words. Yeah. Fantastic. And have you ever had the situation where you've needed to write a certain kind of song? So it's interesting that you ask that. I actually, I wrote music for a circus troupe, which was super cool. I have some friends who are acrobats and jugglers, and this is what happens when you're a musician and you play a lot of gigs and you don't care who you play with. You get invited to do really cool things. And they were doing a narrative circus show, and they had a different musician who had to back out, and I got called because the acro duo in the show was like, oh my gosh, we know this musician, Emmeline. I'm sure she could write something fast. I was like, all right. So they called me and they were like, we need a song. Yeah, I know, right? Tall order. Let's hope I don't screw this up. They called me and they were like, we need a song for this kind of inflection moment for this mad scientist who is realizing that she put everything in her career and now she wants to find love. And I had this sort of like melodic motif that I'd been playing with for a couple of days. I'd just been goofing around and I was like, ooh, that's cool. So I'll kind of jam on something like that. And then when they came to me and they were like, we have this idea, I had the idea for a song called Everything I Wanted. And I was like, okay. I went in search of a crown. That was the line that came to me as I was sitting here kind of vibing on this. Buckeye says, narrative circus show. It was super cool. And then I got to be part of the cast because they were like, since this song can't be recorded in time, do you want to play it live while they're performing acro in front of you? And I was like, 100% yes. Sign me up for that. I want to go to that show. What? I want to go to that show. It was that so sounds cool. Like Vegas these days. I'll have to find out if they have a tape of it. There was a magician. He made doves disappear on stage. While I was standing there, I was like, this is the coolest job ever. I have the coolest job ever. All because I was able to write this song. But so I had this idea of I went in search of a crown. And it was Halloween / Valentine's Day. Like they were going for a Halloween-y Valentine. So I was like, okay. I went in search of a crown. Went to the highest heights of a castle in the sky, never looked down. Just lifted one foot into the clouds and it was followed by another. You see, I had the whole atmosphere to cover. You see, I had something inside me to come. You see, I found that when I got to the top of the world, there was no one around. And lately, I've been lonely. I'm not alone. Won't you come over? I said lately, I've been lonely. We're all getting older. Won't you come over? And that was how I played it. And I wrote this song at 2:00 in the morning, the night before rehearsal. Wow. And
And I ran in that day with the song on my phone, and I literally sat it down and I was like, so you might hate this, but here we go. And I finished it, and I knew that it was going to be okay, because after I played it, there was some girl who had been stretching for her act in the back. And she came in with her little gymnast shoes, and she was like, lately. And I was like, excellent.
Got it. I was thinking that too. That is, it's an interesting, I can just imagine, you know, the kind of the acrobats and this kind of bluesy song that you've got going on. It's got a little sass going on there, and a little bit of, you know, like describing a telephone and asking why you didn't call. It's got that kind of feel to it. Like, it's like,
I love that though. Like, I really love clever lyrics. I have a song called Stop the World that has this line: it's been a long climb up this flight of stairs. All the eyes have serrated edges. Like stairs, S-T-A-R-E-S.
yes.
And I was like, oh. And sometimes as a songwriter, you have those moments where you're like, I was clever.
Clever.
If I do nothing else, I made a clever line. And you know, you have those moments, I think, that are really rewarding. And I make this analogy a lot, that we as artists are kind of like jars, and every emotion is like more water, and we get full. And before we can feel other things, we have to empty the jar. And so music becomes this place where I empty the jar. And the best thing about writing a song and getting it to the point where you're like, oh, I said what I needed to say here, is that feeling of being empty and free and lightweight again. You're like, yeah, all right, I can do this. I can go feel more things. I can go tackle life now. And so I look for that. And I think when songs wake me up, you know, we were talking earlier about how you go back to your favorite songs as an adult, or like as an older adult. Or if, you know, your favorite song happened when you were 5, you look at it as like 14-year-old, and you're like, oh, this is different now. Mm-hmm. And I think when you write a song, it works that way too. Ideally, when I write a song, I'm enabling people to have a conversation with themselves. And the way I look at it is, as long as I'm working on it, it's mine. And then once I release it, it's yours. Then it belongs to you guys, and you get to decide what it means for you. And I just hope it means something. And that something isn't like repulsion. That's what I hope.
But they're a moment in time, right? Like they're a snapshot of what was happening at that moment. I don't think it's a bad thing when we've been talking about vintage music, that vintage music sounds like it comes from when it comes from. Because it's a snapshot in time. We were talking, this is a really off topic, but I was talking to someone about tattoos once and tattoo trends. And I was like, but if you have a trendy tattoo, that's just the moment in time you had it. Like, there's nothing wrong
100%.
with that if that's what it means for you. And so I recently, my son showed up with a CD from my basement that I had forgotten existed. Based on the age of it, and just when I remember, I was about 13 and 14 when I listened to it. It was in high rotation back when we needed CDs, folks. And I'd forgotten it even existed. and my son brings it up, and I put it in, and I can sing every song. And I forgot the band even existed until that CD went in the player.
That's crazy.
Like, and I mean, we're talking about just about 30 years ago now. Like, it was just like, it was all there. I'm like, oh, how did I forget this music? And so it all just comes back to you. And I can remember us playing it on repeat and what songs we like the best. And what's a CD? Yes, Stasher. What's a CD? I know. But so it's an exciting part about listening to music and stuff. Can you play us an original song?
Yeah, what would you guys like to hear?
What kind of stuff?
I can play you. So I guess this is actually a good example of a song that started as one thing and ended up being something else. I heard there might be a CD. Yes, actually you can find my music on CD. I am that old school human being. And I have liner notes and pictures, like I'm that person, because it was a ritual for me to purchase a CD and to open it up and to read the liner notes, you know? So I wrote this song called Empire with my friend Ethan, and I brought it to Ethan fully formed because when I first started co-writing, I was a little bit of an overachiever, and I would bring like a full song and be like, "Look, let's write this together, this full song that I have already written." And I brought it to Ethan, and he was like, "Okay," and it went like this. And then, so it was the song about a breakup, and it started with this thing that I had started doing, which was running late at night. Settled into a life now. I run at midnight through town. Past pretty cottages with tree lights shining down. Got a new sense of wonder. I've got a new peace of mind. Learn the bruises of colors that fade over time. And I was like, this is a breakup song. You're less than a shadow, and I'm stronger than I know most days. And then it snows. Your laughter's like a flurry, and I know the storm is gonna take me home to fireside kisses and marshmallow dreams. You only call me on Christmas. And I was like, this is a breakup song. And I brought this song to Ethan, and he was like, it's really pretty, but I don't think you want to write a Christmas song. And I was like, why? Why don't I want to? Everybody has a Christmas song. Mariah Carey wrote a freaking Christmas song. Like, right? Don't want a lot for Christmas. I was like, everybody has a Christmas song. I don't have a Christmas song. This is my Christmas song. And he was like, I don't think you want to do that. You can only play a Christmas song like a month of the year.
And a Christmas
breakup fine. Song. I was like, fine. Maybe it's not. So I was like, and then it comes. Your laughter strikes like lightning, and I'm sure the storm is gonna bring me more than fireside kisses and marshmallow dreams. You only call me when it's raining. I was like, see, now it's just a generic breakup song. And he was like, yeah, okay, but I don't think you miss this guy. And I was like, whatever, it's my song, what do you know? But I'm Texan, right? So we don't say that. So I was like, that's an interesting thought. I appreciate your ideas. Do you have anything that you want to bring to the table for this writing session? And we ended up writing a totally different song called Juggernaut. But I was like deeply offended, and I went running, and I was like, how dare he tell me what my song is about? And I started to think about it, and I was like, I don't miss this guy. And then I had a conversation with a student of mine where she had broken up with somebody. And for those of you who don't teach, I'll just tell you, when you teach teenagers music, half of your lesson is spent on music, and the other half of your lesson is spent on like life.
Heartbreak.
Yeah, and depending on what they're going on, like what they have going on in their life, you get a lot of life. And she came into her lesson and she was like, I broke up with my boyfriend today. And I was like, oh, this is not going to be a music lesson. We might as well just close the piano now. We're not going to talk about music. And I was like, I'm sorry. Do you want to talk about it? And she goes, well, I broke up with him. And I was like, I'm a survivor. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to work hard. I was like, you go, girl. Like, let's write a Destiny's Child jam. Like, let's do this. And she goes, yeah, but I think my parents are going to be disappointed in me. And I said, why? She goes, well, isn't that what I'm supposed to do? Like find a partner and have a couple of kids and buy a minivan. And I was like, do you want a minivan? She was like, I don't know. I just want a car. Like I'm 15. I was like, let's start with the car and then we can get to the kids and the spouse later. And probably start with a minivan because great airbags. But it occurred to me that there are a lot of songs about what happens when a relationship ends and you find someone new. And there are a lot of songs about what happens when a relationship ends and it is the end of the world. But there aren't a lot of songs that give people permission to be okay as they are. And I was in a place where I was. And I was like, oh, Ethan was right. That's not what this song was about. And so I was driving to work the next morning after I had run like 4 miles in rage the night before. And this chorus came to me, which was, I'm not a box that you're checking. I'm not a name to be given. Oh, I am an empire. I am an empire. More than a hand to be holding. More than a heart to be broken. I am an empire. I am an empire. And I played it for Ethan. And he was like, that's the song.
That's the song, I know.
He was like, that's the song. And it's funny, right? Because I still have all of those choruses in my head. Like, I haven't read those songs. And I mean, Empire came out 2 years ago now. I haven't read through those songs since we wrote Empire, like eons and eons ago, what feels like it now. Yeah. And Ethan has a writing credit on that. None of the lines are his, but he was responsible for being like, throw that away, throw that away, throw that away. And that's the songwriting process, is having somebody who's like, that's not what you want to write about.
Yeah.
Or having somebody who's like, I hear the heart of that song and that's not what it is. Like, that is not the emotion you're expressing. And so that was the process of writing Empire. And that was the one that Miklos used on his stream.
Yes. I think he uses more than one, but that's the one that ends his stream. So we all are kind of familiar with it.
Yeah. So I can play you that one, or I can play you a different one, but I know that's the one everybody knows.
I'm up for whatever you're feeling.
A Southern people pleaser at heart. So, but yeah, now you know a little bit about how it started and where it went before it became Empire. And the line, I'm not a box that you check in, was one that I'd had for a really long time because I was so pissed off at the DMV. I was sitting in line to get my license and I was like, it's so condescending to check the box labeled single. And it's so reductive to check the one labeled white. You know, it's just, and I'm like, this is so obnoxious that we reduce each other to these boxes. Like, heterosexual, homosexual, you can only check one. Boy, girl, you can only check one. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Why do we do this to each other? So I had that line for a long time, and I was like, this is the song where that fits. So
our brains haven't grown up. That's the problem, is that little kids need boxes to help them categorize. If you show a little kid who's like not a country kid a picture of a deer, they'll often call it like a cow, because they pick like the closest thing. They only know, right? Things go in nice, neat little boxes. And so it's just a matter of figuring out that we don't all need to fit in boxes. And I love that that's in there.
Thanks. That means a lot.
Love that inspiration came to you at the DMV, where most people are like, you should suck the soul out of us. Instead, she's like, I'm going to take this and grow from it.
All I'm saying. I was in a really terrible professional situation, and that's why we wrote Juggernaut. It's basically a song that's like, you know, you might be big, but I'm bigger. I'm going to take you out. Anyway, here's Empire, which is not about that at all. But yeah, let this be, if you've never heard this song before, I hope it speaks to you. If you have heard it, I hope it still speaks to you. If you've heard it and you've liked it, thank you. Because that is really the only reason I put out music, is to make you all feel things and be happy. But yeah, know that you're not a box. You're so much bigger than a box, or a relationship, or a name that somebody gives you or that you give yourself. Yeah, you're bigger than all those things. And your future is as bright as you make it. And the only thing you need is you. I've settled into life now. I run at midnight through town, past pretty cottages with tree lights shining down. I've got a new sense of wonder, got a new peace of mind. Learned the bruises and cuts that fade over time. And you're less than a shadow, and I'm stronger than most days. I'm not a box that should shake it. I'm not a name to be given. I am an empire. A hand to be holding, more than a heart to be broken. I am an empire. I am an empire. I do whatever I want. I wrinkle sheets on both sides, and all the things that used to be ours are mine. Got a dog and a future. I've got an identity. I've learned that it's never too late to follow a dream. And you're less than a ghost now. And I'll figure this all out someday. Sorry, I'm not a box that you give. I'm not a name to be given. I am an empire. I am an empire. To be holding, more than a heart to be broken. I am an empire. I am an empire. And something happened when I started playing gigs, right? Which is that a song, when I wrote it, stopped being about just me chiseling away at my own feelings and started being about what was going to happen when we were in a room together, you and I, playing this, singing this. And so this has a sing-along, because all I wanted was to hear voices. And when I play it live, there's nothing cooler than people singing along. So if you want to sing along and chat, go right ahead. It's whoa, and it goes like this. It goes. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's your part. Louder. We gotta keep it going just like that. Not a box that should check in. I'm not a name to be given. I am an empire. I am an empire. More than a hand to be holding, more than a heart to be broken. I am an empire. I am an empire. This is the part where we sing together. Whoa, 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 whoa.
That is incredible. So one of the things that I'm keenly aware of is it possible to make mediocre voices sound really good these days. And so when I hear people doing things live, like when the local person goes to the radio station and just plays something, or when you're here in front of us and you just play, my mind is just like, I'm just amazed, because I'm like, I know that just comes out of you that way. You don't need to kind of make it happen. There's a lot of technological
guys, we don't even have the mic. Like this is legit going through the laptop speakers.
Yes. And I think once in a while it cuts you out. I'm not sure. I hope not. But they're loving it, and it's just amazing to me that people have that in them. You know. And I have to say, just going back to the whole Twitch thing, which I know you did Twitch things once on Miklos' stream. I remember that. I couldn't make myself do it. I just couldn't. Nope. I did it once. Miklos will tell you, and I told him I'd do it again, and I was like, no, it's okay. So, of course you have the voice, but I have lost her sound.
No. Am I back?
You're back.
I'm back?
Yes.
Fantastic.
All right. So yeah, it was so just that people have that and they can just like put it out there, and that it exists in such a pure form is just amazing to me. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for letting me play. Of course, always. So you didn't do Twitch things?
I tried. I did one song. I put it one. Miklos did do it with me. He
Which one did you do?
I just sang Rainbow Connection, the Kermit the Frog song. In part because we were doing a charity stream. We were doing a charity stream for Trevor Project. And actually, interestingly enough, I was doing that first stream way back when with my friend Bok Tai, who I sometimes call Rainbow. Because when I met him, we were looking at a rainbow together online. So it's a long story. But
so beautiful.
But I really like the idea of Rainbow Connection. I mean, being connected to the frogs. My username is Tree Frog, but also being the Trevor Project and the idea of the rainbow was really powerful. But I can't do it. I was like, I can't do it. I was like tentative. My son's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't make myself sing this. So
it's scary at first, right?
Yes.
I think if my older roommate were here, she would tell you that the first show I ever played, like they had to turn my mic up all the way. Because I was so scared. But it's funny. I feel like something happens when you're pursuing what you're meant to pursue, like what the universe has put you on the planet to pursue, in that you make yourself do things you didn't think you could do. Yeah. And I think when I graduated college, because I was in this wonderful, beautiful place. Also, thank you guys so much for the kind comments on chat. Like, I'm reading them and they're like gonna make me cry. I was in this beautiful music school space. I was surrounded by incredibly brilliant, supportive women of all stripes, shapes, sizes, who uplifted each other. And then I had to come home to Texas, and I had a job here and I was grateful for the job, but losing that connection to a support who appreciated what I wanted to do as a musician and who I was as a musician was really hard. And I kind of felt like I'd been dropped in a dark forest, like in a game of Survivor, like somebody had just dropped me out of a plane with a backpack and they were like, good luck. And I was like, is there a flashlight? Like, do you have a compass? What am I doing? Like, is adulthood always like this? Were the adults lying? Yeah. That is the biggest betrayal, right? As a kid, is when you grow up to be an adult and you're like, I'm going to have it all figured out. And then you get to be an adult and you're like, nobody has anything figured out. Nobody knows anything.
And if they tell you, they're lying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the first show I played, I was so grateful to play it. And I was so scared. And I'd been playing open mics for a really long time at that point. But I played and people clapped after the first song, which sounds like it shouldn't be like an, oh my God moment. Like, hopefully they clap. Hopefully they don't leave. But they clapped after the first song, and it was like somebody had lit the forest on fire. Like I could see every tree. I knew exactly where I needed to go. And I have moments in my life where music is less easy than others. And moments, you know, we all as people have moments of preparation and moments of release, right? We have moments where we're working really hard and nobody sees the work that we're doing. And then we have moments where we put out a record and everybody's like, oh my God, new music. And, you know, you just like run in the press circuits and you're hanging out and you're like, check out all this cool stuff I did. And you get to interact with all the people. And that's my favorite part. Preparation is hard because you do it by yourself. And it's a lot of unseen work. And you know, you have moments, or at least I have moments where I get discouraged in those moments because I'm like, is it going anywhere? Is anything going to happen? And without fail, every time I pick up an instrument and walk onto a stage or do something like this where I get to play for people, it lights the forest on fire again. And I feel so grateful to have that in my life. And I think, you know, at the core of it, what I really hope music ends up doing is lighting the forest on fire for someone else. Like, I hope I can put out a song that lights it up on for you. Not because I want a bunch of forest fires. Just to clarify.
I was thinking that. I was like, wow, I have never been so in love with the idea of a forest fire before. That felt so powerful.
She says, yes. But that's what I hope. Like, I hope that there's something in a song that I either introduce you to or that I play for you or that I write for you that inspires you in that way, that helps you find yourself in that way. Because I got to tell you guys, like, it's been a weird year. 2020 was weird. I am an extrovert. Isolation is not my favorite. I'm glad you guys like the analogies. I cannot tell you in words, except that I've written a couple of songs about it, how weird and strange and bizarre this year has been. And without the ability to play for you all, I don't know what I would have done.
You know, one analogy that I heard fairly early on in the pandemic was that we're all in the same storm, but we're all in different boats. And you can't really know what's going on in someone else's boat. And so,
yeah, for sure.
The idea that it's impacting, you know, that it's hard. It's tough for a lot of us. Some of us are actually enjoying some time that we have right now. Others of us are really struggling. Some of us are partway in between, and we're finding different ways. And so I'm sorry that that's happening, but I'm glad it brought you to Twitch more.
No, yeah. I mean, there have been gifts, right? Like, I was driving 4 or 5 hours a day before this whole thing happened. So, like, I get to see my dog, you know, I get to be home, which is kind of nice and exciting. But the ability to play is something that I never take for granted. And I think I take it for granted even less now than I ever did before, because stuff like this is such a blessing. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thank you so much, G-Frog, for having me. Like, this has been so much fun.
It is so exciting. I just wanted to, there's a couple more things you're doing right now. One of them, I think, is another result of maybe being at home, having a little more time. Is the podcast new?
Yes, the podcast is brand new.
The podcast is brand new. You've got 2 of them, right? Like a pair of podcasts. You don't do anything just a little bit. We're not just going to dip our toes into a podcast.
Yeah, it was really cool. I'm not a small talk kind of person, which is ironic because I'm from the South, right? So I can make it, but I don't love it. I really love, like, getting to talk to people, and I miss that about shows, and I miss that. I mean, you and I had a great conversation prior. I think they're all of you out there are wonderful and fascinating, just as you are. I love getting to hear people's stories, and what I've noticed is I love the process of songwriting. I love figuring out how a song goes from that acoustic idea to a fully produced track. And I love listening to artists talk about that. So I would ask my friends these questions. I'd be like, how did this happen for you? Like, tell me about this process. And I had a friend come hang out with a bunch of us. And then afterwards she was like, God, have you ever thought about sharing those conversations? And I was like, no, that's a great idea. Because then I could have more of them. And so I started Journey of a Song, and I started talking to people, and I invite songwriters onto the show, and they play an acoustic version of the song, and then we talk about it, and we end up kind of talking about life in the same way that we have here. And then at the end, we play the fully produced version of the song. So you as the listener get to kind of go on that journey and follow the creative process. And then I was having so much fun talking to all of these songwriters. And I was like, but there are other artists, like there are other kinds of art. So how do you shine a light on those people? How do you share those stories? And so I started Journey of an Artist, where I talk to people who aren't necessarily musicians, or who are musicians but aren't songwriters, or who are dancers, or I've talked to a costume stylist, I've talked to a voiceover actress. And it's this really beautiful opportunity to hear what makes people tick and talk to people who are living their best lives and figure out how they got there, and hear them talk about how it's not a straight line, how it's a messy process, how a lot of the time they don't know what they're doing. And I think for those of us that are following, maybe the road less traveled, as Frost would say, I think it can be comforting to hear that.
Absolutely. I think it can be, I mean, you talked about that whole adults don't really know what they're doing thing. And I think more and more people expect to come into the world, and just like know what they're going to do and know what their life is going to be like. And when they don't, it really can throw people off. It can really make people feel like they're supposed to, and now that they don't, like ends up almost frozen or stymied, right? That feeling of being frozen. And I always tell them, I'm like, no, like people who tell you they are, they're just lying. Like that's a childhood fable I think we perpetuate to children, because they see us as knowing what we're doing. And then you're like, oh no, I was just figuring it out as I went along. That's how that works. And so for those of us who are on unusual career paths, mine is not an artistic career path, but it's definitely an unusual one too. Just, figuring out as we go and being okay with that. Are you familiar with Blue Rodeo?
Am I familiar with who?
Blue Rodeo. They're a Canadian band. Okay. And that's when we were talking about Canadian. There's a very famous song they have called 5 Days in May. And I watched a songwriter circle where he was talking about how it was actually a real story, where he watched one of the roadies when they were down in Mexico one time writing love letters to his girlfriend in the sand while she was there. And the way it was like, it's just interesting. I never would have assumed that song was a real story.
Yeah.
You assumed it's a metaphoric story, and just to hear it's real was it's like, wow, okay, that's a real thing that happened. Interesting. So I love to hear where things come from.
Yeah. And I mean, and to your point earlier about how you don't have to necessarily have a creative career to have a squiggly line success. I mean, I think what we're all learning, especially now, right, when everything that we thought we knew has kind of been thrown out the window. I mean, in Texas, I know some of the people watching are from Texas. We spent the last week being like, winter? Like, what do I know about winter? I don't know anything about winter, but now I have to figure out things about winter. I have to figure out how to walk on ice. I have to figure out how to drive on ice. I have to figure out how to boil water with no power. I think life is one grand journey of figuring it out, Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us are doing that, but not a lot of us are talking about it, because we live in an age that is so curated. Everybody wants to put their best foot forward. I think that adults telling kids they have everything figured out is just adults white knuckling their path. It's just adults holding on to that shred of authority they've been able to maintain with like the whitest of white knuckles so that they don't lose it. And it's funny because when we let each other into that vulnerable space, and to me, this is what music is really about. When you let somebody figure out that you don't have everything figured out, that's when real kinship happens.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know about you guys, but Ani DeFranco has this this great line that goes, "God help you if you are an ugly girl. Of course, too pretty is also your doom. Because everyone harbors a secret hatred for the prettiest girl in the room." And I think that's true. Like if you are somebody who walks in and acts like you have it all figured out, that's not a good way to make friends.
No.
And it's certainly not authentic. I don't know anybody who, when I get to know them, actually has it all figured out.
Oh, no. That's just stories people tell themselves.
Yeah. So that was the goal with these podcasts, was to let people into that messy space and be like, no, come sit down. It's great. Like we've got fire, we've got treats, we've got stories, like hang out with us. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
But we're still putting one foot in front of the other.
Absolutely. And creating some beautiful art along the way for some of us, and some of us it's a little more concrete than that. you know.
But I mean, you're creating a beautiful community with what you do. I mean, what you guys do here is really important. You're shining a light on interesting people for people who, want to see that or want to be inspired. And, hopefully those of us who come on live up to that.
OmniPixel Gaming has been this opportunity to really try this in a way that I didn't think would ever be possible. Like,
really?
It's a really, really amazing opportunity for me because I don't think I have the technology. I don't think I have the know-how to quite accomplish it on my own, so I rely on the strength of others to get that part done for me.
Shout out to Bartek for helping us with all of this sound stuff.
Yes, Baktai has a lot to do with my stream.
Baktai's pretty fantastic. We're grateful.
Yes. So some goals in your career, some aspirations, or some things still yet to come.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, as try as it is, I'd love to win a Grammy. I'd love to write a song for some of the artists I've followed my whole life, with or for them. And it's funny because I think we think of those as like really big wins, right? But my day-to-day hope is that like every day that I have music out there, somebody finds it and is inspired.
I think some people found it today.
Oh, thank you, friend. Thank you for saying that. I hope so. That's why I make music. I hope every day that there's a song out there, I hope there's someone who finds it and says, okay, now I have the motivation I need to move forward today. That's what I hope. Or I feel understood so I can keep going.
Well, and that's the thing. It's a relationship, right?
So much, yeah.
It's about the give and take. So you said that you might play us something new that you're working on.
Yes, I would love to play you something.
Kind of wrap up with that. It's almost time to wrap this up, so maybe we can hear
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. And thank you to everybody for tuning in. You guys are amazing. Oh man, thank you, Ash Dasher. Thank you guys so much. I'm just so grateful that you guys have taken time out of your Monday night to hang out with me. Tree Frog, you included. I'm grateful. Thank you.
And going back to your goals and just in chat, someone just mentioned, being miles better than some popular artists already, is that unfortunately, especially in careers that have a little more long, non-linear paths, there's a bit of luck.
Yeah.
Talent, isn't the only thing, unfortunately, that gets you to those spaces. Because if it is, we know she'd be there. So there's a certain amount of luck and hoping that, if we put your music out there in lots of different ways and put yourself out there in lots of different ways, that the right person will find it. Who
that's
can
always
make some
the
of those
hope.
other dreams.
Yeah, that's always the hope. So if you like what you hear, please share it.
Yeah.
But for me, like, the relationship between artist and audience is sacred. And I just feel really blessed to have amassed a group of people who are kind enough to listen to what I make and make it their own. That's what it's about to me. When I first started, I ordered t-shirts and I wasn't sure anybody was going to buy the t-shirts, but we were looking through all these different ideas to kind of bring people into the fold. And one of the things that we created was a loyalty card. And so I had this little frequent flyer card where if you came to 10 shows, you bought a t-shirt, you got to get a free t-shirt. And as my roommate and I were making these up, I was like, do you think anybody's ever going to come to 10 shows? And she was like, I don't know. That seems like a lot. I was like, I know, right? Let's hope somebody comes to 4. We gave away 30 t-shirts.
Wow.
Just for people who had the loyalty card. And I was blown away. So I'm just grateful.
Yeah.
This is a song called Take Care of Each Other. And it's new. We still have t-shirts, by the way. You can find them on Bandcamp. We should start doing something where if people show up to a certain number of Twitch streams, I send them a free shirt. Would you guys be into that?
I have to tell you, Tree Frog on my other profile, the stream points at the bottom of the screen. If you get enough of them, you can redeem it for a sticker and a letter from me.
You were telling me about that. That's such a cool idea.
Yeah. And people, I've had 40 of them.
Of course you have, because
I thought I set the bar too high. Now I gotta rethink that. I was like, oh.
I have, for 150 chat points, you can treat my dog, Chloe. And I need to like up the ante on that one. I didn't realize how easy it was to get 150 chat points, but Chloe's had a lot of treats lately.
Poor Chloe's gonna get heavy. Gonna gain the COVID-19.
I know, right? Well, we didn't get to walk this week because it was an Arctic tundra, but
yeah. All right, this song, Take Care of Each Other, is that what you called it?
Yeah, this is called Take Care of Each Other. In the middle of the night, in her tiny house, there's a little child on a threadbare couch holding onto her mom, hoping tomorrow there'll be better days. And somewhere across town, beneath the bridge, as the lights go out, a lone man sits and his belly is empty. But he's got the faith he'll see better days. Oh, we gotta take care of each other. Yeah, we gotta take care of each other. Oh, even though the world gets dark sometimes, any one of us can bring the light. Oh, we gotta take care of each other. Right in front of a mirror, a woman stands. She's subtracting inches with her hands, but a voice inside her shyly reminds that there'll be better days. Because adversity is everywhere, but so is strength, so don't despair. Dig deep down inside you, find a smile to give away. Oh, we gotta take care of each other. Yeah, we gotta take care of each other. Even though the world gets dark sometimes, any one of us can be the light. Oh, we gotta take care of each other. And a scroll. For black women, we're bright yellow beige. For streets, cisgender, trans, queer, gay. We're hearts that pound against a rib cage beneath the skin. We're all the same. We're special, passionate, but we're stuck. We get knocked down, we fall, we get up. We together, we try. This life is hard, but with a little bit of love, with a little bit of love for our neighbor, we'll get by. Oh, we gotta take care of each other. Yeah, we gotta take care of each other. Even though the world gets dark sometimes, any one of us can be the light. Oh, we gotta take care of each other. Yeah, we gotta take care of each other. Even though the world gets dark sometimes, any one of us can bring the light. Oh, we gotta take care of each other.
Well, you got me there. That one got me.
Oh!
Am I sitting here? I'm like, well, I'm just going to cry. That's okay.
Oh, no.
Sometimes we need that.
There's a song in progress. Thank you guys so much. It's not quite done. But that's sort of how it fleshes out. I've done a lot of conclusions about this year, right? I've written a lot of 2020 songs. Mm-hmm. And that's the conclusion I've drawn, is we really just have to take better care of each other. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, wherever you are, whoever you are tonight, thanks for hanging out. I'm sending you so much love. Mm-hmm. Know that you matter. Yeah. And that you being here has meant the world to me. So, thank you.
I mean, it's my philosophy in life, for sure, and the thing I hold dearest to me. So thank you for putting that in words. We were talking about that. We didn't plan this, y'all, but I kind of wish we had, because I'd feel brilliant right now. To wrap up the whole conversation with, you talking about how it can connect to other people and stuff. And now I'm sitting here going, yep, like that. That's exactly the thing that has to happen. Right?
I'm so glad. Thank you.
So on that note, we can find you. We've been putting your socials in chat. We've been putting your Twitch channel. And if you aren't following Emmeline, we probably should be following Emmeline. And if anyone has any quick questions in chat before we wrap up, I think she would probably answer them. But we can
please. If you have questions, throw it. Thank you guys so much for having me. Tree Frog, this has been amazing. You're amazing. Thank you to OmniPixel Gaming for what you guys do. Thank you to Boktai for making us seem like we technologically know what's going on. we're grateful for that.
Yeah. So I think on that night, Emmeline, when do you normally stream? Monday nights, I know. Sunday nights.
Actually, I stream Sunday nights and Tuesday nights right now, and then we're looking to add like a third floater day, because I know I stream kind of late for most people. But I stream, come hang out. And you guys please follow OmniPixel Gaming if you're not already, because this is super cool. You can find me Sunday nights at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Excuse me, and Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Central Standard.
A schedule and everything. Emmeline,
a schedule and everything.
Awesome.
And then, so please come be part of the fam. You made it here. You're already part of the fam. You just have to make it official.
Yeah, fantastic. All right.
I am so grateful for you. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for being here. This has been so much fun and such a joy to have you. So thank you so much.